Hello. Yeah, that started suddenly, didn't it? Hello, everybody. Welcome to Catch Justice. I am Jessica Gehring, aka Jessica for Justice, and this is my wonderful counterpart. I think I'm pointing at him. Here we go. Yeah. Raul, also known as Catch LISK. I appreciate you guys being here so much tonight. As you can see, I am not home. I am actually at Austin's parents' house, and this is actually Austin's room where I'm at right now. So, I'm not going to cry this time, I promise. Um, but I felt out of all the rooms in the house, this was the most appropriate room to do it at because I'm sitting at his desk doing something in memory of him. So, yeah. So I know Raul and I both have some older uh, cases and people to talk about. I have a 40-year-old unsolved triple homicide to discuss in that happened in Houston a long time ago. I know that Raul has another case that he wants to discuss that may or may not be connected to Lisk, but the most important thing is that her story is told. So do you want to go first tonight? Do you want me? You want me to go first? Okay. All right. Royal's being quiet tonight. I almost swallowed my gum.
No, don't do that. Yeah, I was a little quiet today. It's been like for me the last couple of days very emotionally charged. So I'm feeling the weight of it all. The weather doesn't help. I get this sort of melancholy when it rains the way it is yesterday and today. Plus, it's the weight of carrying these stories and sharing the lives and how um, their disappearance or their murder has impacted their family, how it's impacted the lives of their ability to move forward in life, and even how it impacts people like me who just become so embraced by wanting to capture the essence of their lives and do something to bring them some justice. So I do want to, before I just go over real quick, a quick, trigger warning for everything because of what we discuss and some of the images that we may or may not show. I don't think I'm showing anything today, although it's possible. But make sure you have your support system and resources. And if you need to take a break, pause it or step away and breathe. Stay grounded. Stay centered, and seek whatever help that you need because these are heavy topics and they're very emotionally weighty. And Jess, you almost got me right off the bat when you said this was Austin's room, and I'm like, oh my god, you can't see the lump in my throat because of the turtleneck, but
Yeah, it's this is where he lived in this house from high school, actually until I met him, and then he moved in with me. So he's lucky that his parents kept a lot of his stuff, like I have a Sega and stuff from them that was his. Like they kept everything. Like if I turn it, so they have their like prep stuff there, as you can see. But like you can see that there's like kids stuff, stuff that they held on to since he was a little kid. And there's this lava lamp here. This it's a cat that
no.
Austin did, you know. And it's I appreciate so much that I am a part of their family and able to come here and do stuff like this and appreciate Austin, and they share stuff with me and all the photos of stuff when he was younger and yeah, they're such wonderful people and I'm very very blessed.
You are their family, and
Yeah.
that's special. And I felt that totally transcend the thousands of miles between us physically, and just the emotion of it all. So I do want to thank all of our mods. You guys are just amazing. Please, if you're not following any of the mods, go and find their shows. Hey, mods, drop your links into the chat. So that we can all continue to share the love and keep this very special community that we're a part of, I'm honored to be a part of. This community got me close to people like Jessika and Joe and Jay and Shay, and there's just so many incredible people. So drop your links in there, mods, and everybody give them a huge following and a shout out. So then I'm done talking.
All right, for now, well, I'll give you some time to work that lump out. Um, so I first heard of this situation, I think a year or so ago. I can't remember if it was the National Day of Remembrance or something. It was something where murder victims' families go to Crime Stoppers, and there was these women there, and they had talked about how their mothers were killed and it's a cold case, but then they said it was a 40-year-old cold case. This cold case is as old as I am. So it speaks to me that it's from 1983, just thinking that this family has been waiting my lifetime for answers. And they have a lot of questions. It's pretty horrific. So this happened in West Houston. Um, so the address at the time was 1607 Memorial Drive. So I used to live off of Memorial Drive actually in Houston, but it was 9900. So not super close, but we lived on the same street. So the area that they were in, this is a nice area. This is supposed to be one of the nicer areas. And from what I was told, the property is gone now, but from what I was told, it was a small house that was set up to be an office. So if I look at the map now, this house isn't too far away from I-10. Just a couple, I-10 is the major highway that's there. This is in West Houston. I lived in West Houston. So this area is known to be a nice area. It always has been. This is where, if you want to see mega mansions and stuff like that, drive down Memorial Drive. So for something like this to happen in this area, generally not something that you hear of. And you generally don't hear of triple murders in general of three women in an office. So these were three women, real estate agents. They were at work when this happened. I might say the name of the company wrong. It was Shoemate and Co. Realtor's Office. The victims were identified as Elizabeth Shoemate. She was 54, Joanne Brown, 46, and Frances Ivy, 60. So Sarah Ivy Edwards and Helen Ivy Maldonado are Ivy's daughters, and they have been very outspoken and trying to get justice. This case grabbed attention 40 years ago. It made the headlines. It was even on Oprah. But even with all of that attention, they have not gotten any new information. I actually have a clip from 1983 that I'm going to show. So this is, this clip is as old as I am.
It was a shocking case of triple murder. All three of the victims, Elizabeth Shoemate, Fran Ivy, and Joanne Brown, were shot in the back of the head with a pistol. The unsolved case, though it is 10 years old, is now attracting national attention.
They are all unsolved murders, and the detectives on the killer's trail are all obsessed with finding the person or persons who did it.
It has been a frustrating case for Sergeant David Calhoun. He spent hours at the scene on that fateful day, gathering every bit of evidence available. The days that followed brought a composite picture of a possible suspect.
We think that there was probably two bad guys. It's very, very possible that one of them might have been a female.
The victims' family members have their own ideas about the case, and they remain confident that the determined detective will somehow break the case.
It's still something that's at the top of his list. I guess it's kind of a personal case for him just because he has been involved since the beginning.
But Sergeant Calhoun admits he suffered with a sense of failure.
One day you feel guilt. You sit down and you read the report. Did I miss something? Have I overlooked something? The clues will come in. You feel the high. Okay, I'm on a good trail now. If the trail dead ends, it comes to a brick wall. Now you're back down in the low. So it's a roller coaster.
The hope of investigators and family is that the new publicity about the case will somehow lead to the person or persons who took 3 lives. Sam Saucedo, 11 News.
So that was some of the 1983 footage with the 1993 Oprah footage. Let's see, I don't think it. No, yeah, this is just the rest of the funeral of these women. Um, yeah, I mean, you don't, especially in 1983, you just don't think of something like that happening. This was a much different time than it is now. And they were hoping with the publicity of the case that it would help. We didn't have the technology that we have now. So they are hopeful that newer technology will help in this case. But we don't know. So, and then I also have a newer video from a couple years ago, and there is a Crime Stoppers reward for this case, and it was recently increased. Now, all of these women were not only shot, they were shot execution style. This wasn't just where somebody was caught off guard and they killed them. This was something that was brutal. Why most robbers don't kill people execution style, but there was some jewelry missing. And they did find jewelry hidden under stuff, like under pillows. So they had time to hide some of it. So that is one of the more confusing things. They had time to react, they had time to hide some of it. So, how did they know that this was a threat to hide something? Did they come in threatening? Did you know this person? There's a lot of questions that comes to that because it's odd. And then odd that they had time to hide the jewelry. It wasn't, if you like think of like downtowns and things like that, they have those older Victorian style homes that aren't huge, right? So this wasn't a huge home. So definitely a lot of questions in that. Why be so brutal with the bunch of women? Like they're not a threat, and for some jewelry, that's not really something that happened that often back then. So let's see what they say in the updated video.
Three women shot execution style. It is a cold case we featured, and tonight there is a bigger $15,000 reward. Here's our Grace White.
It was a chilling headline. 3 women shot in the head inside their real estate office the day after Hurricane Alicia hit in 1983. But now, an increased reward is getting the case new attention.
What did you think when you heard the news?
I was elated.
For decades, these daughters have waited for answers for their mom, Frances Ivy, and the 2 other women killed, Elizabeth Shoemate and Joanne Brown.
And I would love for this to have some closure.
And Crime Stoppers is not giving up, announcing today the reward was raised to $15,000. After our story aired in February, the Houston Association of Realtors board voted to donate the money.
Anything that would have to do with safety of our members would be of critical importance to us.
Houston police had a sketch of a suspect, but think he wasn't working alone. They're now looking at what new DNA technology they can use to test old evidence.
I think there's always a possibility.
These sisters hope the $15,000 is momentum.
The slightest bit of information would be helpful.
That will breathe new life into a cold case.
Somebody knows something. This is a big city, I know. but every day I find out how small it is.
Houston police have reached out to the FBI to help with research and testing, but they're still hoping that increased reward will encourage people to call Crime Stoppers. Back to you.
So unfortunately, this video, go away. How old is this video? Let me see. Yeah, this video is 3 years old. So even though it's 3 years old, the increased reward unfortunately did not do anything. And the weird thing is, the day that it happened was the day after Hurricane Alicia hit. So that's also weird. I didn't live in Houston at that time, so I don't know how bad that was. I didn't live here then. I was born in 83, so I wasn't around for any hurricanes at that time. So I don't know how long they had that business. That's a good question. Let me see if I can find out. The timing is weird. Maybe there was something, maybe, yeah, who knows, really. There's so many weird things in this case. And then, so I have the Crime Stoppers flyer too, and I'll post that in a second. Stop this screen. Let me share the other one. I mean, sometimes life is just odd, right? There could be absolutely nothing to the timing of what happened or the way that they did stuff. Sometimes people are just sadistic and horrible. So the Crime Stoppers flyer. So this is Frances Ivy. Those were her daughters talking in the video. They're the ones that have been the most outspoken. So this was August 19th, 1983, 5:30 p.m. Unknown suspects robbed and shot 3 victims in the real estate office building located in the 1600 block, Memorial Drive. The victims were found on the floor in the front office reception area of the building. When the victims were discovered, 2 of the victims were already deceased, but a third was still alive. The third victim was transported but died as a result of injuries sustained in the robbery. Further investigation revealed that jewelry was stolen from all 3 of the victims during the robbery. Frances Ivy was one of the victims. Kind of an odd flyer, not really sure. It hasn't been updated, it looks like, since 2019, so this doesn't have the increased reward. So the reward is $15,000. I'm really hoping that the new DNA technology will, we have I can't ever pronounce the name of the company right. It begins with an O. I know you know, Raul. What's the name of them?
Othram.
Othram. Yeah, and they're actually in the Woodlands. So I'm actually very close to where they are right now. So anybody works there wants to give me a tour or tell me how it works, that'd be great. And yes, I fully agree, Joe. Never underestimate the cruelty of others. We have no idea. This could just be a sick, horrible person that wanted to torture 3 middle-aged women. And some of them, I mean, one of them was 60, so older, like almost, I don't want to say elderly, but, older in life. Like, who wants to hurt some women? I don't understand. Maybe, I don't know how bad Hurricane Alicia was. That is a good question. Let me see if I did not find anything. Let's see, yes. So one of them was tied up. Shoemate was tied up. Brown and Ivy were close by. And all 3 were shot execution style. And they did have time to hide the jewelry beneath chair cushions and trash cans. And 2 people came forward saying that they saw a man near the real estate office, and that was the sketch that was released. I'll post. Let's see. It killed 21 with $3 billion in damages. Alicia, Houston. Yeah, let's see. Powerful tropical. Oh, wow. Yeah, there was some flooding and stuff. Why were they at work? Yeah, it did a lot of damage in Houston. Yeah, wow. Looking at these photos. But I think that the damage is really more like towards Galveston and stuff. There is some flooding where the area that the real estate agent was, or the real estate office was, that didn't flood during Harvey. So it's possible that they also didn't flood during that hurricane because I moved to that area specifically because it was known not to flood. So they may not have gotten hit as bad as some of these other ones. Yeah, so there's so many questions in this case, and these two daughters are really want answers for what happened to their mother, and I know the other two families do as well. These two daughters are the ones that are able to speak and give a voice, and I definitely don't. It's understandable if other people don't want to do that. You know, it's scary to know that there's somebody out there that did this to your loved one. I know there's plenty of people with unsolved cases that it's really hard for them to do anything, let alone to advocate and speak up. And that's why one of the reasons why we're here, so that we can help facilitate that and help be their voice. So I'm going to post the Crime Stoppers link in the chat, and then I'm also going to post the one of the articles that I was getting some of the information from, and the reporter that does the missing pieces, Grace White, she's wonderful. If anybody in Houston needs help with a cold case or anything like that, Grace White is a beautiful human being, and I would be glad to connect you. So if anybody out there is in the Houston area and needs help with something like that, I can get you connected with Grace. And yes, Joe also brings a really good point. No reason to do that unless they could identify. So there's so many questions. This could be as simple as a robbery gone bad because we do know that that happens, or it could be so many other reasons. And I don't know how the police were in Houston in the 80s. I have no idea. I don't know if they were fantastic or not, so I can't say anything about the investigation. So hopefully this family will get some answers. I'll eventually post this on our Catch Justice Twitter for you guys to share. I also posted Brandon and Chris's story on there, so please make sure to help share these. And again, this reward is $15,000, not the $5,000 that it says. So that is it for me today, and I'm going to pass it along to Raul.
Excellent story. Frightening. Just can't imagine how evil people are. It's just, actually I can, because I see it every day when I'm working on the map. I read some of these cases and situations and descriptions, and I'm just horrified. So talking about Carmen Vargas, she yeah, like this is another heavy one for me because for me there's a lot of proximity that I can relate to. Carmen was last seen and had lived in Harlem. I spent many years living in Harlem myself. We know several of the same people. I feel like I know one of her aunts anyway, or nieces anyway. But there aren't pictures that I can share. There's only the one, and you'll see it in a few. But there are pictures. They're in storage. I've planned or offered the nieces to go and help them in the storage units to go find some extra pictures of Carmen. But I'm gonna start just sharing her story. I will jump over to a news link shortly thereafter. But Yeah, Carmen Vargas weighs a lot on my soul. So, Carmen, at the time of her disappearance, she was an independent yet family-focused 26-year-old. She was strikingly beautiful with dark hair and brown eyes. She had a very involved She was a very involved sister who loved spending time with her nieces, either babysitting them or taking them to the movies and the park to play, or teach them how to play handball. Another thing that endears me because I love playing handball. Now, I'm too old now, though. Her parents took care of everything for Carmen as she grew up. She was the youngest. They were very doting parents. And in order to help make ends meet as Carmen grew up, she did some odd jobs back then. She would clean people's homes or do their laundry and contribute to the family. As I said, Carmen was the youngest of 4 children, and her family were all born and raised in Harlem, New York, which, despite its labeling or anyone's instant perception, it is a vibrant and diverse community. It's rich in culture, it's rich in music, but always struggling. And especially in the 80s, it was struggling economically. At that time, the heroin epidemic was just beginning. Cocaine may have been the cliche drug for yuppies and that type of Midtown Manhattan people, but heroin was a cheaper and more powerful drug, and its widespread use dragged deeply marginalized. I'm tongue-tied today. Dragged deeply marginalized urban environments such as Harlem into extreme war-like scenarios. Carmen would fall prey to this herself after the death of her beloved mom in September of 1986. Her depression over losing her mom would take Carmen down a path of heavy drug use and survival work in order to support her addiction. In other neighborhoods, Carmen might have had the resources to escape this all too often downward spiral. In other neighborhoods, Carmen might have had a chance to thrive, but Harlem in the mid and late 1980s was not that neighborhood. And we kind of saw that last week, sharing some of the situation with Stacey Reddish and the environment there, which was literally only about 10 blocks away. Carmen would come home every night, and if she didn't come home, her family would either know where she would be at, or they would see her during the day and know that she'd be okay. Then just one day, she didn't come home. And according to one of Carmen's nieces, she was last seen leaving her apartment, getting into a dark truck driven by a white man with glasses. Carmen's sister and nieces would search everywhere for Carmen. They posted flyers all across 3rd Avenue, Lexington Avenue, 1st Avenue, 2nd Avenue, Park Avenue. They filed a missing persons report with the 23rd Precinct at 102nd and 3rd Avenue. But Carmen never came home after that, and no information came forward. On September 11th, it's heavy. On September 11th, 1989, a man driving with his family on their way to Jones Beach pulled off alongside the Meadowbrook Parkway. About a mile south of Merrick Road, and discovered the remains of an unknown female dressed in a turquoise miniskirt with a white tank top and one gold crescent-shaped earring. The woman, petite in stature, had brown hair tied in a ponytail, held in place by a rubber band, with a prominent chin and a protruding nose. A towel had been draped over her face, and it was tied around her neck. Her ankles had been bound, and after an 8-hour autopsy, it was determined that this young petite woman experienced extreme violence done to her face, indicating that she fought her attacker, losing several teeth in defense of her life. It would not be until 1992 that the family of Carmen Vargas would be notified that the body found on that Long Island Parkway is that of their daughter, their sister, their cousin, their aunt, leaving them forever destroyed, forever questioning how she got on Long Island, how this may have even happened, and who might be responsible. Families forever traumatized. From the agony of missing Carmen since day one to going to the city morgue repeatedly, hoping to identify Carmen, to the thought that serial killer Joel Rifkin was responsible for her murder. He denied that, of course. He denied that he killed Carmen. Rifkin was always very upfront about his murders and has even assisted law enforcement in attempting to identify two of his victims who are still unknown and unnamed. The Vargas family believed naturally that Rifkin was lying. He's a serial killer after all. But they tried to move on with their shattered lives. On July 14th last year, the announcement came that Rex Heuermann, that's the only time I'm going to say his name, had been arrested and charged with first and second degree capital murder in the deaths of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amberlynn Costello, and the second degree murder in the death of Maureen Brainerd Barnes. This opened up a Pandora's box of emotions for them: rage, sorrow, determination. Believing that LISK, the accused Long Island serial killer, might be responsible for the disappearance and brutal murder of their loved one, Carmen, her nieces began a social media campaign to bring attention to Carmen's unsolved and cold case murder. There does appear to be similarities between Carmen and nearly all of the victims along Ocean Parkway. All were of petite stature. All were survival workers. We know that many were bound at the head and ankles, and all were placed along parkways. In 1989, RH would be a tall 26-year-old, right at the prime escalation age estimated by the FBI regarding emerging serial killers. RH began working in New York City in 1987 for architect Harvey Rothenberg, commuting to the city from Massapequa Park. By 1990, RH is also working for Greer Construction in Freeport, although there's been some challenge to identifying that exact location. He would also marry his first wife in September of 1990. The Vargas family worked really hard on getting attention for Carmen. Most recently, there was a news clipping, a news brief done by Mary Murphy of Pix 11, and I'm going to show that now. I hope. Fingers crossed. Present. Bear with me.
You got this. You did it last week. You got it.
I know. Let's see. Okay, here. Is it there? It's there, right? Okay.
Yep, there it is. Now you got it.
So now I'm going to press play.
And she was found tied up at the side of the Meadowbrook Parkway in Freeport in 1989. This is 8 miles from where accused Gilgo killer Rex Heuermann has lived his entire life. Carmen's niece was the last to see her alive.
It's bothering me. Like, I don't eat.
Felicita Figueroa was the last person to see her Aunt Carmen alive when the 29-year-old woman got into some kind of truck at the corner of 106th Street and Lexington Avenue in the summer of 1989.
She got in a dark car. Like, I was only 12 years old, so I couldn't really see, but I could tell it was a white man, and I seen, like, glasses.
On September 11th, 1989, a motorist discovered the body of Carmen Vargas, clad in a tube-top miniskirt and tied at the ankles, south of Merrick Road on the Meadowbrook. She had a rope and towel around her neck, but wasn't identified for 3 years.
Always, for me, location is the most important factor. It's far more important than MO.
This online writer, who publishes a regular column called Murder Incorporated using a pseudonym, said Heuermann had ties to Freeport and also noted that the Meadowbrook Parkway leads to Jones Beach, where Heuermann was a seasonal worker in the 80s. The accused Gilgo killer lived 8 miles from where Vargas was discovered. Her family gave dental records to a Nassau detective in 1992.
She's missing 1, 2, 3 teeth. He said that whatever happened to her, she fought that night because 3 of her teeth were knocked out.
Rex Heuermann is the prime suspect in the Gilgo 4 murders of petite women found dead in the Ocean Parkway brush in 2010, very close to the Jones Beach Exchange. 3 of the women were bound with burlap. Some other victims on this stretch of road were dismembered.
A serial killer can vary the way they do things. There's no rule that serial killers have to do things the same way every time.
We reached out to a law enforcement official in Nassau County who said he would check on the Vargas murder. We also asked Suffolk County District Attorney Ray Tierney if his office had been receiving tips about women left near parkways since Uerman's arrest.
We receive tips on, in all cases at all times, but we maintain the confidentiality of the investigation.
Carmen Vargas's niece said serial killer Joel Rifkin was interviewed in 1993 about the murder, but he refused to take responsibility after confessing to killing many other women.
Joel Rifkin said, "That's not me. That's not my work. That's not my victim." But we thought it was him, so we let it die for all these years.
But now, the victim's niece feels compelled to learn the truth.
My mother died with this. And my mother was my everything. She was heartbroken. She was depressed. She went into using drugs. I have a gut feeling like it's really him.
Rex Uerman has pleaded not guilty to the Gilgo Beach murders, and his attorney accused the media of convicting him in the press. But the
don't know what I need to do. Do I need to remove that now? Yes. Okay, got it. I'll get better at that. I'm sorry. You can see in her niece's interview how damaged the family is, and we saw it with Stacey Reddish's family, what they go through, the depression, the overprotectiveness, raising your own kids. You're just shattered, and it's something that you don't move on from. You learn to adapt somehow and move forward, and they're working hard at that. So I'm really honored that they shared and were willing to share with me. I've been talking with one of her nieces for quite some time now, but I wanted to go and do a couple of things. I'm going to show us my screen again. I think I have it right, and bear with me. Present. Oh no, what did I do?
Okay. Oh, you just removed it. You just have to do present again. It's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm taking you to my map for a sec. Here. Share. Okay, so this is the map. I'm just going to type in Carmen real quick. And I'm zoom in on, this is 106th Street and Lexington Avenue, where Carmen was last seen here. You'll notice a couple of things aside from all the other colors. These brown hammer icons. These happen to be where building permits were for RH Consultants, which was Rex's firm. The dates don't always line up. These are much more recent compared to Carmen in 1989. But now we're just going to zoom over to where she was found. And if anyone notices anything familiar, there's another brown Rex icon. This is where Carmen was found, along the Meadowbrook Parkway. This is one of the addresses linked to Rex. This is 93 Bedell Avenue in Freeport. It's presumed that that's where he lived with his first wife that he married in 1990 and divorced soon thereafter, a number of years thereafter. But when we look at proximity to all things Rex, that's his house over here. If you can see the cursor, where the black icon is. This is Sunrise Highway. Sorry, I'm a little fatoots today. This is Sunrise Highway. This is one of the many roads that you can take. Meadowbrook Parkway, all that takes you right to Jones Beach, and then further down Ocean Parkway to Gilgo, etc. So when you're looking at proximity, there you are. It doesn't necessarily mean Rex is responsible for it, but certainly if proximity is any indication, aside from everything else, it could be quite possible that Rex is responsible for the murder and brutal murder at that of Carmen Vargas. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen again. And man, I do want to add a couple of things. In October of last year, the task force added more detectives to the team that were going to solely focus on cases such as Carmen's and anybody from the city. I think that's how it was phrased that back then, where they're going to look at these individual possible cases and see if there's any viability there. Now, we have to remember this is 1989, and they worked hard to secure DNA evidence in the G4. So there's a lot to be done um, to find out if there's any way Rex could be charged with that. But let the task force do their thing. I have complete faith in this task force. They are committed. They are genuine and authentic, and I know that their hearts are in the right place, and they're working hard for the families. So. I do want to share one thing. I'm going to put it in the link. I'm going to put it in the notes. Let me just copy that. This is a GoFundMe for the family of Carmen Vargas. Carmen's remains were returned to the family they weren't returned to the family. Carmen's buried at Hart Island. Hart Island is for want of a better phrase, it's a potter's field. It's where many unidentified or unclaimed remains go. Hart Island is struggling to even remain afloat. It seems to be sinking into the bay. But there's a lot of renovations happening. And the GoFundMe was initially for private investigator, for support, for driving the case forward, for to find out what happened with Carmen. But now it's also moving into another phase where they'd like to take Carmen from Hart's Island and bring her home, closer to where they live. Whether it's there's a beautiful cemetery just outside of Harlem in the Bronx, where I have family that are buried there. So that's Carmen Vargas. It's very possible she's a LISK victim. I hope that there is justice for Milagros and Felicita and for the entire Vargas family. And my love and prayers are with them and Carmen's memory forever. Thank you.
I think the most disturbing thing for me when it comes to anything possibly connected to LISK is, I mean, men are typically stronger than women not typically, not all, but men are built differently and tend to be stronger. But not only is he going to be stronger, he's massive. He is a massive man.
Yeah, he's
And
6'5". He's huge. He towers over everyone. And if you're looking at a 5-foot tall, petite woman,
yeah, it sickens
incredible.
me
Yeah.
to think what she went through and what those other women
Yeah,
went
I can't
through.
do that. That was the start of my whole weekend thing. I had a habitual LISK nightmare that I did not sleep. I fell asleep around 8. I woke up screaming at 11:30, and I was up ever since. And that's just me. I can't imagine what the families deal with and the nightmares that they suffer. But I love all of them, and I pray for all of them every single day, including everybody that's involved in this. And I really wanted to minimize the conversation about LISK because it'll never be about him. That's for other conversations that we can certainly have. But this was, for me, it was about sharing Carmen's story, getting her info out there, and letting everyone know that no matter how long it takes, even to your case, Jess, that you were just talking about, no matter how long it takes, justice has to prevail, and we can never forget or give up on driving home that pursuit for justice. We have to be relentless in that.
Absolutely. I fully agree with that. I mean, you saw the pain that the niece still carries. She was 12 years old when that happened. So 1989, that's a very long time ago. So she's doing math. I don't know what she's 40 something, 50.
Yeah.
She didn't look old at all. She looked great. So, but yeah, it's still so painful when she was a kid, and like that trauma is going to seep over to other family if there aren't any answers. These families at the very least need to know who. Like in my situation, we didn't get justice, but I know who. I may not have the whys, I may not have all the answers, but I know who. It's a much different feeling to walk around a neighborhood or a place that you live knowing that somebody did something so horrible and they could be walking around you at that moment, and they know who you are, but you don't know who they are. And that is a terrifying thought because, when you're impacted by homicide, you already are likely going to have an anxiety disorder, post traumatic stress. And I think the unknowns likely amplify that. And that's another reason why it's so important to get answers for these cases, because nobody deserves to feel that way. And some people can't just up and leave, they have their whole life there. I've been lucky in the sense that I've been able to move around. When I don't want to be somewhere, I just pick up and move. And I've never had to stick somewhere because after Austin's murder, I didn't stay in that area. I moved immediately 50 miles away. Some people can't do that. I know families where they live in the exact same neighborhood that it happened. So the family, they're still in that same area. And it's terrifying to think about. I'm really hoping that DNA results uh, or some sort of forensics, some sort of technology. We're coming out with more and more stuff every day. Touch DNA, all of that. They need to know who, they need their answers, and her story needs to be told in full. It's she's, one of many crying out for justice, and, as the saying goes, the dead can't cry out for justice, so it's our job to be
Job of
there.
the living.
Yes. So that's all we can do is make sure that she's not forgotten and all the other cold cases are not forgotten, and make sure that their names stay out there. And, when you said his name, you're like, I'm not going to say that again. I'm the same way when it comes to murderers. I don't like saying their name. I don't think they deserve to have their name said. For me, I just call them monsters because they're the scariest thing to me is another human. Like the boogeyman of my nightmares is a real person. So like horror movies don't scare me. Like I can watch any horror movie, that's fine, but I can't watch movies like The Strangers where it's a group of people where that could really happen, because it's like that's already happened in my life. I don't want to watch that. Why would I want to watch that? So they truly are monsters, and they are the stuff of nightmares, and these families just need help slaying those monsters, because you're right, you don't sleep. If you're getting these kinds of nightmares and stuff, how are the families? They're probably going through the same thing. And yeah, everybody deserves to feel safe at night and to be able to sleep without that fear or that monster coming in. So I very much appreciate you sharing her story, even though it is something that's really hard and weighs on you. And I know it does. I know all of these cases do.
They do. They're tremendously impactful, and they leave indelible marks on anybody's soul. If you have even a modicum of empathy, you're gonna carry that. You're gonna be affected by it. And I remember Joe and Mike on Joe's show once talking about how you sort of desensitize yourself a little bit in order to do the job. And to some degree, yeah, I can do the same thing, but I'm a true Libra. I'm gonna be hit with it sooner or later, and I'm gonna carry that. But um, being being able to share, the stories that I've shared, um, it means a lot to me, for Stacy Reddish, for Milagros de Jesus, talking about Carmen Vargas. It's very important to keep their stories out there, to keep their names out there, and to keep reminding, even if we have to keep pushing law enforcement to never forget, never give up, and utilize every new technology, regardless of the expense, to solve these cases. There could be a piece of DNA on any of the bindings that were attached to Carmen, and there you go. We could unlock this mystery, and I have faith in the task force, like I said earlier, and I hope something does come out of it, to just start solving, Carmen and all of the victims along Ocean Parkway, identifying them and keeping this person behind bars until the very end of his life.
Yeah, and like I am pro death penalty, and it's something that I struggle um, with my beliefs, and I hate to like be like, yes, I want this horrible person to have something horrible happen to them, because it's like somebody cares about that person, and their family and loved ones are innocent, but it's so I struggle with that because I think about people like Carrie, and even though her dad's a monster in some people's nightmares, that's also her dad. And because of her, it's made me think of that a little bit differently. But that's something that I'm struggling with, is coming to an opinion on that. But one of the reasons why I am also pro death penalty is because there's been not necessarily like the death penalty part, but it's harder to like have a law changed and then them be released early if they have a death penalty case.
Yeah, I think we're looking at something like that in New York State, where after 15 years, mandatory release, and that is beyond unacceptable. It is just beyond unacceptable. Joe should do a show on that.
No, yeah, we actually had something like that happen in Houston,
Yeah.
and it was like a bunch of murderers from the 70s were released because of this stupid change in the law, and then they changed the law again, but it was too late. These murderers were released. I do believe that some people need to be released and need chances, but when you're a violent murderer,
Yeah.
absolutely
That's
not.
right. I mean, I was talking with one of the mods today, True Crime. We were talking about Israel Keys, and you know, I don't mind the death penalty, but I think in some of these cases, like, we really need to have our understanding of serial killers enhanced, and the only way to get that knowledge is from them firsthand. Richard Cottingham's been in jail since 1980. 1980. I don't want him out on the street. He's probably going to die any year now anyway, but that's not the point. Point is there's cases that can be solved because he claims so much more than what he's been convicted of, there's the psychopathy of it all, and we need to understand that in order to have an awareness of seeing it at that time. Someone begins to escalate into that process, and it is very important. It's a whole big conversation that does need to have happen. Um, but I do understand the need for instant justice too. I mean, I'm out there on Twitter going hashtag, Gen Pop Justice, especially in the Adam Montgomery case. But, you know, we need to understand the whys, the how, the evolution, in order to catch it and see it before it does escalate.
No, yeah, I agree. There's a book called The Sons of Cain.
Gronsky.
If yeah, if people are interested in the psychopathy and the beginning of murder and the history of that, they go into all of that from the beginning of time. It's very interesting because I mean, there's some people where they found, head injuries, they found an overbearing mother. A lot of them, those are the two factors, or they were abused in childhood. But some people had totally normal, and then there's the one-offs. But people do need to be studied, especially because, like, we Ted Bundy and Dahmer and them, they're gone. They can't be studied. Ted Bundy was executed. Dahmer was killed in prison. Because it's like, I kind of wish that they could be studied, but it's also like for the victims' families, it's like, all right, I'm happy for them. So and I have my own mixed feelings because of my own trauma and my own stuff. So, because if I had the opportunity for Austin's murderer to get the death penalty, I would 1,000% be for it. So it's just, I don't know. And I've had people ask me if I would watch a execution. I don't know. I don't know if I could. Maybe if it was Austin's murderer, because I can't even hurt a mouse. Like I caught a mouse once, and like on Jay, he had the little mouse hotel. I caught one in a Tupperware, and like I ran outside with it because I couldn't hurt it. So it's like the quote that I read last week. It really brings this out in you that you don't normally have, and it goes deep down in the depths of your soul that you don't realize that it does to you, and it changes who you are as a person. And that's not something I like. I don't want to have to struggle with that. I don't want to wish harm on another human being, but that human being also, did a lot of damage in my life. So I mean, that's something that I struggle with. I'm sure other survivors struggle with that too. And yeah, they do end up sitting on death row for years and paying for it anyway. And like, I wish that it was faster, but I also, there's the cases where somebody's innocent, or
Yeah.
then they ended up passing away naturally. So it's very complicated. And it's the same thing when it comes to like forgiveness. People say, oh, forgive, or I forgive that person and whatever. That's not for me. If that's something that somebody is able to do and you're able to forgive, more power to you. That is definitely your journey. In my situation, I can't forgive that. That's between him and God. That has nothing to do with me. I know my role in life and in the world, and yeah, I don't think God expects me to forgive something like that. Because I've seen in victim testimonies where they said, oh, I have to forgive you because I want to go to heaven. Yeah, so I don't get in discussions on that either when it comes to other survivors, because if that's something that you want to do, that's great. But I think that is a personal journey too. So don't. So people out there that know people impacted by homicide, please do not push them to forgive that person because of religious beliefs. Let's see, we got one more minute, and Seeking Justice is going to start in just a moment. I put their link in there. I'm going to put it in
Yeah,
again.
I'm going over to mod that chat right now, or in a few moments. That deep dive into the suspicious murder of Dawn Pasella is just, it's groundbreaking. Like, it's really impactful what they're doing. And this episode will absolutely.
Well, I hope everybody can join us in the chat with Seeking Justice. Yep, they're just getting started, so head over there, guys. I wish I could portal you. I can't yet. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you like the video so that we can get monetized, and then I can portal next time. Thank you again so much for being here. I appreciate you all, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.